So quiet. Good afternoon, everybody. It is right around 1 o'clock, but I don't see Kathy Johnson yet, so maybe we'll just give ourselves another minute or two. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and get started, like I said, in about a minute or two, or now, as Kathy's walking through the door. Not that I wanted to make you a grand entrance or anything, Kathy. All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the State of the Castle. You have your agendas in front of you, so it's pretty full, but a lot of, I think, good updates and topics. And of course, if there are topics or questions that come to mind during any of the presenters' presentations, feel free just to raise your hand and we'll get those squared away. So, next up, to get us started, is Kathy Johnson to give an update on behalf of the Resident Council. Kathy, take it away.
Oh, this first row. It needs people.
Okay. Good morning. No, good afternoon. Sorry. How's everybody today? Good?
Thank you.
Good. Excellent. On behalf of the Resident Council, I have just a few items today. Number one, Employee Appreciation Fund. Everybody knows about that, right? Okay, most people do. If you don't know, you will be receiving information about it. It is a way for residents of East Castle Place to, we can't tip the employees for when they do wonderful things for us, but it is a way for us to give something back to them so that they have it for the holidays. So you will be hearing about that, just to let you know. We don't forget those things. I also wanted to just let people know, if you haven't heard about Christmas at the Castle, it will be happening this year. Obviously, it won't be quite the same as it's been in previous years because of all of the frou-fra-fra going on with construction, but it is starting to be worked on. So we will have Christmas at the Castle, and we'll have that to look forward to, right? It always is a wonderful thing. I think no matter whether it's smaller in scope or big in scope, it's still a great thing. The third thing I have is probably something you absolutely don't want to talk about, and that is a COVID update. I know you all listened to back in July, there was a video talk given about a COVID update. And you all listened to it, right? No, you didn't. Well, I did. And so as the chair of the Wellness Committee, I thought it behooved me to present to you, because I thought they did a nice job presenting updated information that we really just need reminding of. And it was given by two physicians who are associated with LCS. And LCS, as you remember, is the management company that East Castle has contracted with. And they certainly helped Tyler to do the fabulous job he did getting us through COVID. You know, we hated it, we hated the isolation, but what was necessary is what was done to keep us as safe as possible. But in that update that they provided, they made some good points that I thought it would be well to remember. We're tired of it, but COVID is still alive and well, and it is still at pandemic levels. In other words, the number of hospitalizations, cases, and deaths, while greatly diminished from 2 years ago, are still within the realm of being a pandemic. In other words, there's still too many cases to it just to be thought of as endemic, which is what flu is. It's endemic, right? We go and get a flu shot every year. And speaking of that, we will be getting flu shots. And Tyler, I'm assuming we'll have them in here so that we can all get our flu shots. Like flu, there are going to be surges that need more attention and measures. And there's no predicting when those surges will happen, but there might come a time when, again, we need to take measures to distance, to mask, perhaps more consistently. So don't be surprised at that and don't be dismayed by it. It's just the nature of the beast. We were reminded that vaccinated people can still spread the virus. And they can still get it. And I know I've used this example till people are probably tired of hearing it, but I have a 74-year-old brother living in Minnesota in assisted living, and he, fully vaccinated, got COVID pneumonia and blood clots, and was hospitalized and then in rehab and so on and so forth. So it's still possible. And that is because all of this can happen because it's a highly mutable virus. More than many other viruses, this virus has the ability to just be changing. And so the experts don't know what they're going to be dealing with. The difference that also these gentlemen pointed out was that unlike a lot of the previous viruses, that many of which are respiratory or GI tract, this is a multi-system virus. It is a multi-system disease, so that it affects not only one system, but it can affect every organ system in the body. So that makes it, again, less predictable and more difficult to manage. Although they're doing a great job with a lot of the new meds. And the long COVID, future's still unknown, what's going to be happening with that. Breakthrough infection and reinfection, which we see happening. President Biden had a reinfection. You remember, he was diagnosed with it, he received treatment, which took care of it, and then he tested positive again. And again, nature of the beast, nature of the med, and it can happen. And the chronic illnesses that we often have increases our susceptibility. Also keep in mind that antibody levels after our vaccinations start to drop off after about 4 months. So we still need to be aware of these things. Common sense, avoiding exposure, particularly when there are times of surges, the buses, vans, salons, small restaurants, and then masks and distancing as recommended, and as you feel you need to do. 2 points I want to make. Number one, people react differently. And I know I had a conversation, somebody, commented that they haven't seen Roy and me down in the dining room. And Roy and I are both of the feeling that we just don't want to be sitting in the midst of many other people in such short, in a crowded room. We're just not comfortable with that yet. So everybody is at a different place with this, and we just need to respect where people are. And if they don't want to be doing XYZ because they're concerned, we need to respect that. Number two, it's bummed us out, but we also have to be aware of staff and how much this has affected them here. All these new procedures and unsureness and staffing shortages that affect them. So I think just a kind word to staff, as you always do, is well in order, because this has been a real, and also with the construction, so much has changed for them. So we need to be aware of that. So I just, as resident council committee, the wellness committee, and I just want to say, we have a wonderful wellness committee. I see David and Rita here, and Joanne Keller, and Joanne Peer is thinking about joining us, and I'm missing Diane Gannier. Is a wonderful group, and we are really thinking about you and how we can make life happier and healthier for the residents here. So know that we are working on that very hard. And anybody wanting to join us is certainly welcome to. Anything you think that the resident committee council should be working on. Anything at all that you have questions about, that you think, hey, you need to do this or that. If you ever do, don't hesitate to call or contact me or any of the other members of the council. You are welcome to come to meetings. We meet third Thursday of the month, 9:30, which is a god-awful hour, but I wake myself up for it. No, my husband wakes me up for it. So, would look forward to seeing you. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And just so if anybody does want to see, or maybe they missed the link to what Kathy spoke about, which was the LCS COVID-19 kind of update, we're happy to send that link around again. I believe that might have came from Teresa or Stacy, so we can definitely do that again. But it was a pretty in-depth COVID update, and actually had some a resident physician on the interview as well, and spoke it both from, I think, his professional clinical physician opinion, but as well as a living resident down in Phoenix, Arizona, who actually I have the pleasure of knowing. So the next up individual is Lindsay Vigut, who will provide us an update on the health center side, as she had a couple questions, and then just a community COVID update.
Thank you, Tyler. Well, good afternoon, everyone. So, my first question that was proposed to me is the new medical director available to be the primary physician for independent living residents? How would one arrange that? So the answer is yes. Dr. Ramanujan is accepting independent living residents to be their primary care physician. He also has a nurse practitioner, Emily Patzner, who is here just as frequently as he is, both experienced in the senior living field, as well as has a great presence here within our healthcare areas. So how would you go about arranging that? Please see, she's not here today, but Teresa Jenkins. Teresa has his contact information, as well as Emily's, and we would be able to set up an appointment where he would be able to come to your apartment and see you right then and there. And upon having a new clinic with the renovation, we hope that he'd be able to see you in that area as well. And then next question, what about monkeypox? You know, as if COVID isn't enough, we throw in monkeypox. So, has everyone heard of monkeypox at this point? I hope. If you watch any form of the news or read, it's been flooding the news in the paper. So, it is an infectious disease that is now a public health emergency back in early August. Currently in Wisconsin, there are 56 cases throughout the state. The state hasn't posted exactly where that's located geographically and county-wise, but it is in the state of Wisconsin. It's in about every state right now, whether it's 5 cases up to 500. And ultimately with monkeypox, the symptoms come in similar to flu-like symptoms, but you get a rash. So that is the biggest, I'd say, identifier, an unusual rash. Not like I walked past, you know, I used the different type of dish soap that my hands read. It's a bumpy looking rash that does get scabby. So again, on that note, we are staying on top of monkeypox as new information comes about. LCS, as Kathy mentioned, our management service, as well as leaders essentially in the healthcare industry, have given us information and guidance on monkeypox as this time, as well as the health department if things change, and the CDC. So I know there's been question about what does a vaccine look like? Would I be eligible for that? The only individuals who are eligible for a monkeypox vaccine at this time are people who have been directly exposed or high risk, meaning they were very, very closely exposed to someone who has contracted monkeypox. At this time, we have not had any individual even come close or even come to us with an exposure, and we continue to move that forward. And then, the best control is proper infection control procedures, cleanliness, and so we have that very locked in with COVID, so we feel very much so prepared for this. Any questions on monkeypox? Yes?
Are you going to talk about the primary audience? The primary target for monkeypox or the primary population?
So the question was asked about the primary population and the primary audience. The primary population at this time continues to evolve, and I suppose, I don't know. It could be any person. It's contracted through, I'd say, physical contact, physical touch, as well as, not changing of sheets and so on. If someone who's infected with the disease slept in those sheets, and then you would sleep in them following. So on to COVID, though Kathy gave a wonderful update on COVID-19, couldn't have said it better myself. From a East Castle standpoint, we currently have 2 recent COVID cases in-house. One in our water tower assisted living and one in independent living. Both are doing well, and both of the individuals are isolating in place. Through this, we have found that in contact tracing that the exposure was minimal and contracted from the outside. So as we all know, people are boarding planes, people are going to Pick and Save, the grocery store, as well as having loved ones come in. So there is an increased exposure, but unless you directly received a call, you are not at risk at this time. So, but again, as Kathy mentioned, you're always welcome to wear your mask, continue to increase hand washing, as well as wiping down your own common surfaces. Any questions for me? Yes?
Do we have a stomach virus in memory care?
We do not have the stomach virus in memory care, no. We do not.
Although I was told there was.
Well, you're hearing it from the one who would know. We do not have the stomach virus anywhere in-house. Viruses do go around, into little sicknesses here and there, as well as allergy season and so on, or else just not accepting of food. But there is not something that we are concerned of from a spreadable standpoint at this time in specifically memory care or healthcare areas. Yes?
Is Dr. Ramanujan taken over from Dr. Johnstone for the memory care folks?
Yes. Yes, Dr. Ramanujan has taken over for Dr. Johnstone for our memory support neighborhood on 3rd floor, as well as 4th floor and 5th floor. Dr. Johnstone is still seeing the patients and residents that he did have over in our water tower assisted living, as well as in the general community, his Glendale office, if you do go out there. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. And next on the agenda is Majorca.
Hello everybody. So I have an exciting update for everybody. So Mary McKay's last day was last week Friday. So we have some great news that we have hired a new dining room manager. Her name is Tanya McCabe, Tanya McGeeb, sorry. And she will be starting with us on September 13th. So we are planning a little meet and greet on that Wednesday, the next day after she starts. Check your calendars for some information about that, of the place and the time that we will hold that. She does come from another senior living community, but does have some restaurant background as well. We are very excited to have her be part of the team. So in the meantime, until she gets started, don't be afraid to reach out to myself or Sam with any questions that you might have when it comes to dining. That is all I have, unless anybody else has some questions. All right, well, the next on the agenda is Mr. Eric Peterson.
Where's Stacy?
Oh,
Okay, or Stacy. I was late.
Thank you, Majorca. Tyler added me because I have a few things for you guys. So good afternoon. Just want to touch base. We'll have the September calendars out by Friday afternoon, so you'll have them. But I also want to welcome the football season. So you'll be seeing some football games showing. We're working through and having some parties, football parties. I know that was something that was asked about. One of the things I want to highlight is we are going to be taking a visit over to the Bucyrus Club and Museum, and you are very much welcome. It's going to be a prospective residence event. Heidi's over there smiling. Cute. But we're going to bridge the gap on the new residents coming in, but we want you to be there to invite them and show the culture. But we have a featured guest, John Gerdo, to be there. We will be providing transportation. If you are interested in signing up, there are limited seatings for transportation. That doesn't mean you can't drive yourself, but we want to be able to provide some. We do need you to have sign up so that you reserve your spot. And you can do that once we get the sign up in the front in the activity book. A couple other things I want to highlight. We are going to be showcasing a live trivia show here in Lindsay Hall every Thursday with a special host, and I won't give it away who that host is, so that you come to that first one to see what it's all about. Next thing is we also have a resident in-house that's going to be teaching a course on Wisconsin prairies. So you'll see that on the calendars. If you have any questions, I won't give away who that resident is, but you might know. Some people are whispering back and forth. They might know who that is. And then the last thing, this is a committee, lifestyle committee driven idea. We will be doing pickling next month as well, and they want to try to recycle jars. So they're doing a drive of jars come back home. So we are going to do a jar drive. So if you have jars that pickles used to be in, or you have those pint or quart jars that we can use for the pickling, we will incentivize you with a coupon towards your next purchase. So if you have a jar, bring it down to the transportation office area, so then we can get those cleaned and reuse those. So, and that is all I have. Just a quick highlights. And I am Eric. Welcoming Eric up. Thank you, Eric.
Stacy, can I just point out that those pickles are part of the Christmas at the Castle
Right.
celebration. So for those of you who do not know Christmas at the Castle, home potted pickles are.
There's a special secret recipe. Somehow I got my hands on it
Yes.
within the first couple weeks I started here. I don't know how I got blessed, but I was blessed to know that. So yes, Kathy, they are going to be shared at the Christmas of Castle so that you guys can purchase them. And they are amazing. They are really good. It's a tradition that the residents do here, and they partake in the whole process of cutting the pickles and getting the pickles into that special brine. So, all right, welcome up, Eric. Any other questions? I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll start my update with just a few maintenance updates. First of which, for those of you in historic, just a reminder that the Holton Brothers construction team is on site. They're in the front of historic, working across the front of the building now, just across Downer and then Lake. So as you remember, they did the back of the building last year, the large chimney. Now it'll be the front. This is the year I'll be a little bit more particular with them because this is kind of wrapping up historic then. For me, tuck point. Yep. Just fixing all the masonry, making sure we have no leak points in the building. Also a reminder, they were working a little early a few days ago, so I did remind them we don't start making noise or working until 8 a.m. Just another update, I noticed the compost bin and back was getting a little buggy, so we've ordered a bug light for it, just similar to the other ones in the hallway. Keeps mosquitoes down during deliveries, things like that. We're going to put that in that back area too, just to try to mitigate some of the insects a little bit so we can continue to use it indoors. It's probably not ideal to have indoors, but I prefer to do it that way versus having it outside, and that gets to be really problematic during the winter months. All right, on to the questions. So first one's fire alarm. So I'm going to answer a couple items about that. So we did have a couple false alarms yesterday. I apologize for that. One of which was, we had 2 in one day. One of which was we had a valve replaced and a miscommunication with the contractors. They're doing all the construction here in Contemporary, and we mitigated that one right away. The second one was part of a reoccurring issue. And for those of you in historic, we're probably most interested in it. It's relative to the fire alarm system in historic. So one of the smoke detectors went off, it went into alarm. We managed to silence the system and remove that device. It's kind of been an ongoing problem for, I want to say, about 3 weeks now, which contributes to some of the beeping that we hear in the front lobby. So we've had to remove a few smoke heads that are simply just beeping. They're not setting off the fire alarm system. In some instances, we have had it enunciate the entire system. The problem with it is when something's failing, you want it to fail all the way so you can identify it and replace it. In this instance, it has not failed all the way. When I reset the system yesterday, we had some troubles that we worked through. Fire detection group is here today working through those, and we're seeking, likely seems like it may be a card replacement. So that's down in the main panel, which is what I had assumed it might have been. But it's better to let it fail than start replacing cards that are very expensive until you get lucky. So that situation should be better. I'll probably provide an update once it's all wrapped up, once I've learned exactly what the source of it is, when it'll be replaced, and I can kind of put that whole problem to bed, because those smoke detectors should not be beeping like that. They should not be going off as much as they were. So look for more updates on that.
Good question.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
What is the drill for fire?
What is the procedure?
Yes.
Yeah.
And especially if it should occur at night.
For what will we do if we hear the fire alarm go off?
Yes, or what should I as a resident do?
So specific, the question is, what would I do if I hear a fire alarm going off in the evening, or any time, frankly? The procedure is listed in your resident handbook. I recall we had this I think once a year this kind of does come up. It's a very simple procedure. Stay in your apartment. And it's that way because your fire door is a fire rated door. So your safest place is we defend in place. So you stay in your home, and in that way, the fire department is really here to put out the fire. As facility staff, our intentions are basically to respond right away, more of like a first responder group, and then communicate. Find out what it is it a false alarm, is it a real fire, how do we mitigate it until the fire department gets here to take the situation over. So the easiest answer is staying in your apartment.
Thank you. I think I've been caught not reading.
That's okay. We get the employee handbook. It's a nice long one too, so I understand. But yeah, it's just really fighting. In this complex as a whole, they design it so that you have fire doors, smoke heads for detection, sprinkler heads for suppression of fires, so on and so forth. And the intention is we defend in place. And if we were to evacuate, we're typically evacuating horizontally or into a different building. We're not evacuating the facility as a whole.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can call the front desk and ask if it's real or not.
You can, realizing that they're probably going to be bombarded with a lot of phone calls. But you're right. That is a way of how we get a lot of communication here through the front desk. But most times, it's getting into the weeds a little bit, but we would silence the horns at a certain point because it's very difficult to communicate when they're on. But we will not reset the fire alarm system until the fire has been satisfied or determined a false alarm by the fire department, if it is a true fire. So that would mean the way to indicate that is all the strobes would continue to blink in the facility. That means the fire alarm has not been reset, and that's what the fire department looks for. They won't let me do that until they get on site. Okay. And is the kind of a caveat to that is the real question came from the beeping in the front, and it's a troubles in the few supervisories. The supervisor is a little challenging for me because we have sprinkler work being done, so sometimes they'll take it out of service, and so we have the beeping. But I am working to mitigate that and see if I can get that silence to a point where it's not so annoying in the front entrance area. So, my last question: could there be a place to sit at the circle entrance? They're referring to the contemporary entrance. It would make it much easier to identify a Lyft driver or any driver that might be waiting for. So there were benches up there, I think is what happened. They were up there, and they got taken away for an event, and now they're back again. So they are back in place. There are benches at the front entrance. Those benches this year are going to be temporary. just because they're kind of taken from a gazebo courtyard, things like that. But we'll be looking to purchase some permanent benches out there for next year as well. So they'll remain this year and new benches for next year. Any other questions in addition to those? All right, thank you very much. On to Mr. Brever.
Back up time.
Where's the glasses?
Don't need them.
Don't need them.
It's out the bottom.
Right out of the bottle. Pass it over. I've frequently been accused of speaking at length, so I brought a timer up with me today so that I don't do that.
What did you set the timer for?
45 minutes and go! All right, here we go. In the spirit of what Stacy was telling you a couple minutes ago, who knows what happened on this date 83 years ago in the city of Oconomowoc? 83 years ago, this date in the city of Oconomowoc. Anybody?
Lord.
Pardon me? Nobody?
No.
The Wizard of Oz premiered in the city of Oconomowoc. Hollywood, for whatever reason, wanted to do one in the Midwest to see what, the real people thought about the Wizard of Oz. So there you go. We're a part of movie lore history.
How many years ago?
83 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
1939. There you go. My report's done. Thank you. For those of you that are interested, if you were with us 3 years ago at our 135th anniversary, we had a special blend of wine done for us by Lewis Station Winery in Lake Mills, Wisconsin, just over by Madison. We've worked with them again this year. They have given us 2 new types of wine, a Chardonnay for our white wine. They've also given us a red blend, is what they call it. We've had our East Castle Place sommelier check this out. And it's not a dry, it's not a sweet, it's a semi-sweet, semi-dry, whatever. Red blend. These are for $20. Anybody who's interested, come and see me. I'll be happy to help you with that. It is a limited supply. We only do this once a year. When they're gone, they're gone. I do have some updates regarding the treasure chest. For those of you that are treasure chest volunteers, we usually get together every other month to talk about volunteer openings for the coming 2-month cycle. That will take place next week, Wednesday, in the club room at 10 a.m. For those of you that are already treasure chest volunteers, you will get a reminder on your shelf tomorrow to invite you to that meeting, typically donuts and coffee. For those of you that are not currently treasure chest volunteers and you want to learn about it, and you want to learn about maybe you might want to get involved, come. You're all welcome. We'd love to get you on the calendar. We'd love to get you to see who else is involved. Next Wednesday, 10 a.m., we'll be talking about the months of September and October. For those of you that like to go out a little bit, we also have the months of November and, believe it or not, December in the 3-ring binder up in the front already. Feel free to go in there and write your names down, but we'll bring September and October to next Wednesday's meeting to make sure that that is filled in. Also, we have just finished what the treasure chest is all about. We had a committee of 5 of your neighbors who got together and reviewed scholarship applications. We had 17 student employees take out applications this year. The committee reviewed a pack of paper that was about this thick. They went through all of the submitted applications with great detail. They ranked them. I am very pleased to say that as of this morning, we will be awarding 13 scholarships totaling $13,700. For those of you that have been paying attention with us over the last 4 years, we've now awarded $50,700 in scholarships over 4 years, and it is to 48 student employees. So we're very, very proud of that. I encourage you all, come next week and be a part of it next Wednesday. I also encourage you to stop down tomorrow. We've got a wonderful lamp sale, a light sale, 20% off all lamps, and we've got them everywhere. Michael McCandless and I are going to be moving them out into the garage area before it opens. So you don't even have to meander through the furniture showroom. We're going to have them all right out there on display for all of you. Can I answer any questions for anybody? Yes?
Are the labels customizable on the line?
The
Would that be an
labels,
upcharge?
what happened this time is that Lewis Station Winery and our good friend Rob Lewis gave us a really good deal on this, on the condition that we put our own labels on. So Maureen and I have a template that we're using for the labels, and obviously Chardonnay, Red Blend, East Castle Place, that stays there along with Lewis Station Winery. But if you want to customize it as a gift to someone in particular, we're happy to make that accommodation for you. Let us know what you would like on it, and we can take care of that. $20 a bottle. Again, come and see me. They make wonderful gifts. Even just for yourself. You deserve a gift. So stop on there. Any other questions? Yes?
Would you explain about the dehumidifier in the treasure chest?
I'd be happy to. We have had a dehumidifier in the treasure chest for probably the last 2 years now. East Castle Place donated that to our workspace because so much humidity builds up in the basement, and we have tons of furniture in there. About 3 or 4 months ago, maintenance needed a dehumidifier in another section of the campus, and I'm not really certain where that was, but they needed to borrow it. If you've been in the basement this past week, you know that it has gotten very musty down there. There were odors down there. Maintenance has brought the dehumidifier back to us. It's plugged in. We're emptying it 2 or 3 times a day, and the moisture and any aroma that you might have noticed earlier is now gone. So, because of East Castle's benevolence, we've been able to maintain our inventory of furniture, and it's back up and running again. Any other questions? I think next is Tyler.
Timer didn't go off yet.
I know, I should keep talking, right?
Yes, please.
I'm sure you probably all want to continue to hear Mike, but no, thank you, Mike, for that update and also for all the other directors' updates. So, for my update, there was a couple of questions, and you see the resident questions that I kind of put underneath that construction renovation update. I'll encapsulate those at that time. But the one question that I do want to talk about initially is about the Wi-Fi. And so on Sunday evening, approximately 6:30, 7 p.m., the Wi-Fi for you as residents went out. We were made aware of that at 7 a.m. The next morning, and so Joe Petoskey, our IT manager, was working directly with our Wi-Fi provider and was back up and operational by noon on Monday. So again, when that goes down, that is frustrating, right? I completely understand that in my own home. When the internet's not working, I get to call AT&T, and then they say they'll service me in roughly 48 to 72 hours, and we work through that process. However, with that being said, our Wi-Fi is something that you rely upon and we rely upon. Unfortunately, technology at times has its own ideas and fits, and so we worked closely, and we continue to work closely this week with that provider of our Wi-Fi to gain even more access so that in the event that the Wi-Fi does go down, we have control and are able to fix it here in-house. So Joe is continually working with that. We are actually looking at switching our support provider because we've had some other issues on our own Wi-Fi networks as well. As far as if it's going to upgrade and improve, our Wi-Fi is consistently being reviewed and upgraded from the utilization that you as residents put on the system. I'm sure many of you, quick show of hands, how many of you might stream Netflix or stream some type of services, right? And so we want to make sure we continue to keep up with that. And so the bandwidth of our system is constantly being evaluated. And again, that's just a normal part of our operation and what we provide to you as residents as part of our normal business operations in keeping that Wi-Fi relevant as well as up to speed. So again, apologize for the Wi-Fi outage. Again, there's a couple of pieces that we could have probably improved upon, and so we've put those measures in place and don't anticipate that issue to arise again, hopefully. Again, it is technology, so we do our best.
Who is our provider?
So it's called, a company is called Allbridge. So it's run through, and this is where I even get a little confused because there's a support underline of a fiber line with AT&T. But then on top of that, then we have our own Wi-Fi through Allbridge, and they're our support, and then we have our own switches and network and Wi-Fi system specific for East Castle Place that Allbridge supports. So that's really, Allbridge is the support company that we've had issues with in our service provided. PS Salon. I never thought that I would have to talk about the salon again, but here we are. No, I'm just kidding. So PS Salon. They've been in-house now for 6 weeks or so and doing a very nice job. So well that they now have an excess demand. So kind of came to a head this week where there was appointments scheduled, there were sign-ups had, there were things that just didn't come to fruition. So Stacy and I, along with Teresa actually, met yesterday when I was made aware of the situation, and I spoke or sent an email to PS Salon today, and I'm waiting for a response and probably a phone call for asking for them to increase their hours and or days on site, because right now they're on site 4 hours per week. And that's just not quite conducive. Again, there wasn't the demand initially, obviously we're ramping up, and now there is, and so we need to be able to provide that. And so again, that's really where it came to a head this week that, on Tuesday when she was here, we had residents going in, she was taking walk-ins, we had residents that had set appointments ahead of time that came for their scheduled time that weren't able to get in. Long story short, it was a bit of a mess, and so wanting to work closely with PS Salon, our salon partner, to resolve that and have that resolved as soon as possible. So again, like I said, they sent me an email last evening, I sent them an email back this morning, and I'm hoping to connect with them later today or tomorrow. So that we have a plan in place so that we can tell you as residents, this is the way to get to the salon, this is the way the sign-up is going to take place, and this is what you can expect. So my apologies on behalf of PS Salon. Again, we brought them in as a partner that is a reflection on East Castle, so wanting to work very, very quickly to establish that trust that you have with them as well as the services that you expect.
Will there be a second beauty parlor over in the health center eventually?
Yes, so the question is there a beauty parlor scheduled for the second, or a second beauty parlor? Yes, so Bradford Terrace in the basement will have its own beauty salon. That salon is actually going to be probably operational in the next 60 days, if I had my guess. And then that will be specifically for the healthcare center and water tower and CBRF residents or memory support residents. They'll just have to take the quick trip down to the basement. Then you, as independent living residents, will receive a brand new salon as well, and that's tentatively scheduled to be in the wellness center. And again, that will be all brand new equipment, and then we'll have 2 salons on site. In the interim, we may have just one salon operating, meaning you'll have to utilize the Bradford Terrace salon. That's also fully renovated in the interim while the next salon is being built. Also a nice segue into the construction update, so thank you, Sandra. How many of you attended the C.G. Schmidt construction update last Friday? Are those helpful? Do you enjoy those? I think it's nice, and CG has it scheduled, I think, for September already. But again, just having that direct access to Jordan and Carla and CG Schmidt to really get it from their perspective. But some things have transpired obviously over the weeks ahead, which is a good thing. You saw probably, if you have your car in the water tower garage, probably saw a large number of boxes. They installed their first cabinets in Bradford Terrace, which is very exciting, which means we're finishing spaces and apartments. So the question, the first question is, I do believe that the cafeteria, I believe we're talking about the dining room, did not need to be shut down for such a long time, with nothing happening there for weeks and even months. It may have been convenient in some schedule, but not worth the trouble and for the residents and to diminish social life. So I think this question is maybe more referring to, we haven't seen too much action in the dining room in the last week. And so 3 weeks. And so I assure you there's work being done within even the last 3 weeks in the dining room. And next week they're scheduled to begin drywalling that dining room. And so they had to not only put some additional resources in Bradford Terrace, but there's a number of mechanical systems that had to be impacted in the dining room at the time that they started the schedule for the dining room. And so again, they're still on track to have the dining room complete before Thanksgiving, and most likely well before Thanksgiving. And work is being done, although you may not see it. I assure you there is work being done. And needs to be done. So again, they're tracking well in the main dining room. I think you'll see a lot more action next week as you look into the windows. Obviously, you're seeing a lot of action in the courtyard and work being done there. And then I assure you there is a ton of work being done in Bradford Terrace as we're really trying to get that area up and operational so we can continue moving forward with the project. The next question was about what kind of fuel is being utilized in the heavy construction vehicles, the backhoe for use. Is there a pump here? I talked with CG Schmidt. Those are newer pieces of equipment. They are still running, the diesel fuel. That is the true question. They are not electric, but there is not a pump on site. So there's no diesel fuel stored on site at East Castle Place. They have a truck that comes in with a tank on the back of it. It's actually a pickup truck and it has a gas tank on the back of that pickup truck that comes and refills them as necessary. And so again, if that is the question, but in talking with CG Schmidt, again, those are newer pieces of equipment. So they have different, obviously, capacities and efficiencies and fuel and emissions outputs that they have to meet. So interesting question. Hopefully that answers it. And then last question, before I get into a little bit more of an update with the overall construction plan. Any plans to upgrade the outside of Bradford Terrace on the west side? And so actually there is, and it may come a little bit after the project, but we are looking to make Bradford Terrace look a little bit prettier. I think is what we're after. So we're painting parts of that and really just trying to give it the update that not only matches the inside, but also the outside of it. So yes, there is some plans. It's still a little bit in work because there's a couple different options we have. And so I'll be working closely with Ted Bowles, he's our project manager for LCS Development, who's assisting us. He's on site September 6th, so that's one of the topics I'll be touching base with him on his next visit. Any questions about those questions? Otherwise I can, yes, Dr. McLaughlin.
Well, I have one question, and this morning I got on the elevator to come downstairs, and Betty Perman was on the elevator, and she was a little unhappy. And she obviously had to wait for the elevator for a long time. And so she said she couldn't come to the meeting this afternoon, and would I convey the message?
Okay.
So she is one asking the question whether there's going to be another elevator installed, because there's going to be 30 to 40 more residents that are going to be in this area and the historic area, and she wants to know how that elevator is gonna carry all those people.
So the question is, on behalf of Betty, is there going to be another elevator installed? And if so or not, how are we going to accommodate the additional 30 or 40 people from the water tower building? Good questions. We do not have an elevator plan to be added to the community. We do, however, have a ramp that will be added that should help take off some of that traffic from the the D elevator. And I only say that because there's 2 water tower elevators. And so those 2 water tower elevators will be taken down to the ground floor, and then the ground floor to the fitness center or to the ramp or to the main dining room. Now there is a potential that they come all the way down to the D elevator. That definitely is a possibility. However, in my mind, the quickest route for them is actually to utilize the 2 water tower elevators that are very accessible to them that are in the water tower building. The traffic for that elevator D, although yes, it's our most utilized elevator because it's the one that goes to every floor, again, is still meeting the needs of the community. And I do know and understand that it can be frustrating, especially if you go and expect the elevator, and then all of a sudden there's a contractor in there with some shower doors or maintenance in there with some piece of equipment, and you have to wait. Or kitchen staff, which again, that kitchen staff piece will be completely eliminated because we don't have a dining room over there. So again, that's why that elevator is being stressed a little bit more so than probably even now than I anticipate with the new residents coming on board. So, but the short answer is we are not adding an elevator. The long answer is what I just provided.
If I can't remember all that, I'll send her to you.
I just saw her. I will specifically touch base with Betty myself to make sure I hear her and then explain what I just explained. Any other questions? Yes?
Are we gonna do anything with the kitchen?
So the kitchen currently is being impacted, and that's part of what you aren't seeing. So there is there's a new wall that they're going to get and some additional space in the actual kitchen because we're taking away a little bit of their kitchen. So it's a give and take. Majarka has been very involved along with Chef, but yes, there is some work being done. However, I mean, the equipment standpoint, the size of the kitchen is really not changing. And that's why we as East Castle Place will continuing to do capital equipment and things of that nature so that they can continue to provide the excellent food that they do.
And is the dining room bigger or smaller?
Is the dining room bigger or smaller? That's a good question that we'll wait for it to open. No, it is essentially the same size. It really, really is. The changes that you'll see is there's a second private dining room, as well as that private dining room really kind of opens into what I'll call the normal dining room. We still have the one private dining room that everybody was used to in the back of the dining room. The other changes you're going to be entering from not the Lindsay Hall hallway. You'll be entering in from essentially where the club room is today. That's where your new entrance will be because there isn't going to be a wall there. And we will also have increased capacity across the way in the club room, which will be now the bar area. And so all in all, we will have the same seating capacity, if not increased seating capacity. However, that would include the bar area. So will we have capacity for all residents to dine at one time? No, we did not have that with our current. Will we have capacity to ensure that you all will be able to dine in the dining room between the hours of 4:35 and 7? Yes. We will. So again, that's really where we're going to be working closely with the Food and Beverage Committee, more so working closely with Majarka and now Tanya and Tim to see how that all transpires. Again, it's a whole new way of dining for not only you, but for our staff. And so that's where we're gonna work together, and expect that, we may do some soft openings, so to speak, just like a restaurant would, right? We're not gonna ask all 100 residents to come at one time the first night of service. Come all at the same time, let's see how we do. That's not gonna be successful for anyone. So yes, there's gonna be, 2 top tables, 4 top tables. We're gonna have tables for 8. I think the private dining room capacity is 12 now. So again, the dining room from a size standpoint really didn't change. It changed in layout and a little bit of functionality that we should be even a little bit more functional for Majarka and her team. Because now the host won't have to be all the way up at the front, walking all the way to the back. They're walking from the side, and then we have the rest of the dining room.
And you can use the same menu in the bistro as in the regular dining room.
That's something that we're still determining. I think the question was, will I be able to eat the same bistro menu as in the dining room? I mean, again, the food program, is still something that Tim and Jacques are discussing as we speak, really. I mean, to see what that program and what that menu looks like. Are we going to have a lunch menu that's specific for the bistro? Are we going to have a heavier dinner menu that is in the main dining room? All to be determined, all to be worked with you. All I can say is that I know that I'm excited, and I hope you are as too, for what's to come. Any other questions? On the construction front, just to kind of put a bow on it, Bradford Terrace is still on track about October to be turned over to us, so it'll be the beginning of October. The 3rd floor CBRF area, our memory support neighborhood, look for probably some memos and notices either next week or the following week to finish up that carpeting and what that looks like. Lindsay and I will be reviewing the phasing plan next week that Jordan just sent to us, but we want to make sure you're aware of that. That whole area should be wrapped up right around the same time that they turn all of Bradford Terrace over to us, so October-ish. There's still some work to be done there. Like I said, the dining room still on track to be well before November 15th, or by November 15th, we should be in regular dining service. And then that will also include the front desk, the bistro, the new marketplace. All that turns over the exact same time the dining room does. Then the fun begins and we flip over to the other side and we go through that gymnastics that we'll all get to be meet on at a later date. The courtyard is, believe it or not, on track. That will also be wrapped up before the snow flies. Everybody can knock on wood. I shouldn't have said that, because who knows when the snow flies here in Wisconsin. But it is on track to be done again around that same time, end of October, early November. Again, that won't include obviously the plantings that the garden committee has selected, because turns out plants don't do great in the middle of winter. So we're gonna wait till spring to really spruce up that area and make that into the courtyard that we'll come to know and love. That's the construction update. You will be receiving a COVID construction update today. And just by quick show of hands, was everybody okay with how we distributed it last week? We tried a brand new method without really telling you. We emailed you. A number of you probably received that memo via email, and then Maureen just put a stack of about 20 or so in the mailroom, and then posted it, I believe, on the bulletin board too. Maureen shaking her head, perfect. So that is not only to conserve paper, conserve Maureen's time about opening up each individual in-house mailbox, but also I think a nice way that the communications committee has put forward everybody's email addresses and to really utilize that. So I know Stacy's doing the same. So I hope everybody's enjoying that and appreciating that. If not, if you still like the physical hard copy, which I know sometimes I do, still available. If we run out, we can definitely make sure we have more copies available. So, all right, with that, are there any questions? Jim.
It's very frustrating to get the schedule for the month on the 1st or 2nd or 3rd of September and has already made appointments with other people 6 weeks ahead of time. Is there any way that State of the Castle, Coffee with Tyler, construction updates, budget hearings, could be announced 6 or 7 weeks ahead of time so we could free up the calendar?
Sure. So the State of the Castle has always been the fourth Thursday of the month at 1 p.m. That hasn't changed. Usually it only changes in November. The Coffees with Tyler, we've been consistent with those at 10 o'clock on the second Thursday of each month, and then 1 p.m. on the fourth Thursday of each month. The Coffee with Tyler this in September is canceled, and you'll see that because I won't be here. You can have coffee with Teresa maybe. She's not here today, so you can do coffee with Teresa. I think we're trying to do a few of those things consistently so that you can plan. The budget presentation obviously is a once a year type of situation. I can let you know for next year when that budget presentation is going to be, if you really want to plan out that far ahead. The council meetings are always the third Thursday at 9:30, if you'd like to attend those. Trying to think about some other regularly scheduled things. So Jim, I guess to your question, Stacy's trying to, with her team, add things not necessarily up to the last minute, but get people and performers and things planned out as soon as possible, but also distribute the calendar. I think Stacy, tomorrow we're planning to distribute the calendar, and you'll see those times and dates that I mentioned. And then of course the weeklies are really what changes. So I guess if there's other things, Jim or anybody, that you're looking for on a more consistent basis, please feel free to let me know. But we are trying to keep a few of those things very, very consistent.
Will the budget be broadcast on 9:55 for those of us that didn't get there yesterday?
It was, I need to check with Stacy. If not, I can provide you a link to it, or I can provide you an in-person meeting.
Is there not a paper coming out? Aren't you going to hand out some sort of a...
So the budget presentation is available in the library. If you would like your own copy of the budget presentation, let Maureen know. And your letters will be in your in-house mailboxes after this meeting, no later than tomorrow.
But the whole thing won't be broadcast.
I have to check with Stacy because I made a comment to Stacy because we use it on YouTube. Is kind of the link that we use, and so I didn't necessarily want the whole YouTube world to know what was happening at East Castle Place, because I do feel that there's some information that should be held confidential to our community. But Jim, let me talk with Stacy and see how we can't get you that link so you can view that.
Okay.
And again, worst case, for you, worst case scenario, you can chat with me, so I'm always available.
Whenever you buy me lunch.
Oh, all right. Gotta buy Jim lunch to present the budget. All right, I like that. Might be a date tomorrow. All right, any other questions? All right, well, I appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you so much for your questions. Again, if you have questions throughout the month, you do not have to wait until the State of the Castle to get those answered. We are here for you, and enjoy the rest of August. September's right around the corner. Labor Day. Next week, 2 weeks from now. It's Labor Day.
Monday.
Week from Monday, thank you. All right, well, enjoy, and we'll see everybody here next month.